I'm happy. I'm happy to see everybody. This topic actually is really important to me in terms of how I know myself and my family think about business and everything. So I could probably talk about it all day. But anyway, we'll do our best in about a half an hour or so. Okay, so first of all, introduction, just who I am and basically why you should listen to anything I have to say. So we run a family office. I'm the CEO of the company. The company is called Bluestar Equity. We invest in private companies and public companies. Most of the time, they're small businesses, and then we scale them and usually sell them. Sometimes we hold them indefinitely. The types of businesses we've invested in over the last 10 years are construction, professional service, software, logistics, a bunch of different types of technology businesses. So we've invested in real estate, of course. So we've invested in a lot of different areas. We have offices across Canada and the US. We also have a staff now of over 100 people. And in the last 10 years, again, we've used these principles to scale a business from anywhere from zero to $1 million, from 3 million to 25 million, from 30 to 65 million, all through applying these sort of principles. And by the way, those numbers are revenue. Okay, so that's me. Okay, so what we're planning on covering today really simply is what we mean when we say leverage, like certainly as a family, what we talk about, how to recognize when you're using it and when you're not, and then how to choose the right lever. Because as we'll see, there's a bunch of different types of leverage that you can use and apply, and you have to pick one. All right, so that's what we're going to try to handle today. Okay, so this is one of my favorite stories to apply this principle or to think about it. And I know some of you might have heard it before, but it's a really good one. And really, it's two wood choppers. They're going out every single day and they're supposed to cut logs. And one of them chops wood all day without stopping. He's putting in 12 hours a day, chopping, chopping. The other guy comes in, but for every single day, he leaves around lunchtime for 2 hours. At the end of the week, the guy who's been chopping all day notices that he doesn't actually have as much wood as the guy who was leaving for 2 hours for lunch every day. He's put in way more hours by the end of the week, but he notices that he has way less actual logs or wood that he's actually produced. And so he asks the guy, "What are you doing? How is it possible?" And he says, "Well, I go home every day for 2 hours and I sharpen my axe." And that is kind of the theme of the way that we think about applying your time, where you're going to uh, do things that appear to others that you're not doing any work, but really what you're doing is you're making yourself more productive with less time. Okay, so what leverage means? It simply means more output for less input. So 1 hour of time being spent, you're getting more output for that hour that you spent working. So this can be in any sort of category. Uh, so I have here skills in yourself, things that you're investing in yourself, that has been invested in a business, or anything else you invest in your time, where your time compounds. The leverage is extended or is built up over an extended period of time. So while you're doing that, let's say, for example, you're spending a lot of time studying a particular skill, right? Like sales. So other people are grinding 9 to 5 every single day at a particular job, or they're working on their business 15, 16 hours a day. But like the man with the axe, you're going off and you're spending more time getting better at a specific skill. It looks like you're not working as hard, but then really, um, when you finally create the leverage, you're getting all of a sudden way more productivity than everybody else because you actually spent the time focusing on that. So that's what leverage is. More output for less input. Okay, so here's just an example. I'm from, the investment world, and I always thought this was an interesting concept of how you should look at where you're applying your time, generally speaking, or how your business compensates you for your time, or I mean, even relationships. You can really apply this to anything, but we're going to stick with business. So you can see that. So Peter Lynch, a lot of people know who Warren Buffett is, but Peter Lynch um, was also a very famous and successful stock picker. So he grew a fund from 18 million to 14 billion by picking stocks. Warren Buffett did the same thing. He picked stocks. He grew from 1 million to 100 million. That was in the 50s. So I adjusted it for today's dollars. Um, Buffett worked in his bedroom, and people were wondering what he was doing when he was walking around in his bedroom. Lynch worked in a fancy office in Fidelity's uh, towers, and he was the managing partner of a fancy fund. But because Warren Buffett had negotiated that he would make 30% of all the profits, the more capital he invested, the more money he brought into the business, and the more successful he was, the more profit he was accruing to himself. Lynch made a salary, and he did very well for himself, but he made a salary. And so it's the same skill set. But all that happened was is Buffett had a particular vehicle that he was utilizing that would give him more share of the profits. Same hours spent, they did the same research, same everything. So these choices that you make on which vehicle that you're using um, can either be a leveraged one or not. So this is just an example of a framework of how to look at where you're applying your skills. So we'll get a little bit more specific about this. Um, so really, there's four types. I think so. I made a reference here at the bottom to this person, Naval Ravikant, who's a famous investor and developer for a technology developer. And he sort of framed this as there's four different types of leverage that you can use. There's categories. And I thought this was a good way to look at it because it gets you a little bit more of a practical usage out of this. So there's people, there's capital, there's content like media, and then there's technology. So people, which is probably the most important one, it also includes yourself or your own knowledge that you are getting or you're building within yourself. So um, specific knowledge, meaning you could be, really good at landscaping, right? Mowing lawns, but you can also be good at planting very specific flowers or gardens of rare plants. You can have people call you and ask you very specific questions about a particular mechanic of planting flowers or whatever it is. The more specific you get, the more you can, for example, charge for your time. So the the investment you're making in yourself and in every specific thing that you know allows you to leverage your hour for more money or more time, whatever it is. You can maybe spend 10 minutes analyzing a problem that might take somebody else 5 hours. So this is what we mean when we say people. I'll go through all the categories later, but this is just a nice way to think about it as we dive into the subject a little bit more. Um, so people, like I just explained, investing in yourself. There's other categories. Um, Depending on where you are in your business, you have sales teams that you can hire to sell based on a script that you have. You have people who can distribute product for you. This would be, instead of you, let's say, taking the box of product that you have and putting it in your car and driving it. As soon as you hire a third-party distributor, you're using people as leverage. You're using distribution chains and technology as leverage to be able to get more output with less of your input, right? Um, any way you can think about applying another person's hours to your business is a form of leverage. Okay. Um, Capital. So this is obviously money, right? Investment in your business. Um, Capital accelerates ideas that already work. So that doesn't mean you have a business that you think might work and it might be okay. And, it's some days it's working, some days it's not. So, but you need a bunch of cash. So you go out and you get some investment from a bank or from whatever. Capital is best used when you have, let's say a product or service that you can sell for $100. You're making $50 a profit, but it will cost you, let's say, I don't know, $1,000 now to distribute that product or service at a little bit more of a scale. You know that you're going to generate the profit on each sale. So by taking in more capital, you can just do it all at once. And all of a sudden now your sales have gone up way up because you've applied capital to a model that actually works already. And again, I'm referencing Buffett here because that's really what he did. He had a stock picking mechanism, a formula for picking winners. And he just felt the more money I get into this, the more winners I can pick, right? Content. So this is fairly new. Like media, you could have went to the newspapers, let's say, and put an ad in the new, you still can, but you could have put, it would have cost you money and you could have distributed your concepts or your products or whatever by like a newspaper ad. Today, obviously there's media content where you can film yourself with your phone, upload it onto any one of the social media platforms, and it costs nothing, not even any time, and you're able to distribute your message to masses of people. And I know that, like, when it comes to followers and a lot of people, I mean, I wasn't really a big believer in this, frankly, 20 years ago when I started, not 10 years ago either. But only recently do you realize that if you get a video with 100 views on it or 200 views, that's 200 people, and it might not look like a lot compared to some people who are getting millions and or whatever. But if you have a local business, or you're trying to get some attention for a brand, 200 people for 5 minutes on your phone that you upload, um, that's a lot. And so I would say that content is it's certainly the cheapest, but making content is um, the one of the highest levers that people have right now when they're starting their businesses or when they're trying to grow their businesses. Um, and of course, the last thing I put on the slide here is that trust and attention compound, which again, if you're putting you know, uh, if you're putting videos online, there's that initial part where, and it doesn't have to be of yourself, but it could be of whatever. There's that initial part where you get no positive feedback whatsoever. Um, and it might even last a year or two. So you get no reward, no, if anything, you get comments, people saying like, this is, not great or whatever it is. But like if you were investing $1 and you've ever looked at a compound interest chart, most of the gains happen at the end. And trust and attention from followers, the same thing happens. If you can withstand I'm not going to say torment, but at least the initial comments that you get from people, and just keep posting and advertising your business, after about a year to 2 years, if you do it consistently, you will find that you're not starting from zero. Every single year, you're starting with what you just built. And all of a sudden, you have hundreds of people or thousands of people. And it didn't cost you anything. And so that's a really, really important lever today in business that shouldn't be overlooked. Technology. So, of course, this is an obvious. Sure.
There's a question in the chat. If you hold indefinitely, how do you monetize your investments, or is it just dividend and fee income?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we'll have some businesses that will have purchased, and they're profitable businesses, and then we'll take the distributions, and it's a pretty much simple sort of concept of like investing in a dividend paying company.
Thank you so much.
Good. Okay, keep going. All right. So technology. So uh, basically, technology is always meant to reduce costs, increase speed of fulfillment, these types of things. I would say the biggest change today in technology in terms of this conversation of leverage is that with AI, um, you're able to try a lot of different products and services really quickly at no cost. So when I was starting in the business, and even 6, 7 years ago, venture capital funds would be approached all the time for, hey, I've got this new app or this new technology, but I need an investment of whatever, 100 or $200,000 to pay for the developers, to pay for the budgets, whatever it is. Then you try to execute on that for 6 months, and then at the end of the 6 months, it either worked or it didn't, and now you have to go back and get more money. Today, you can try by the end of 6 months, you can try 20 or 30 ideas that cost only a few $1,000s. And so doing more iterations and experimentation with technology also gets you a lot of experience really quickly on what a customer would want. Okay, so those are the four forms. Here's the section on how do I know if I'm using it now or what am I supposed to do with all this information? So I'm not sure again if anybody's familiar with the Pareto principle or the 80-20 principle. Um, this is sort of part of the same conversation. So for those who aren't, pretty much 20% of the inputs of anything um, account for 80% of the results. So if you looked at, I put a bunch of examples here. If you looked at any song that, like, let's say song sales, podcast downloads, book sales, sales per customers, if you put them all on a list, you would see that the top 20% usually account for at least over half. It's not exactly 80-20 all the time, but the top 20% usually account for over half of the results, if not 80% of all of the sales. So most songs on the radio, when you hear them, it's, out of the thousands of songs that are written, every month, you're only hearing one or two. This applies to everything. To my knowledge, nobody's actually explained why this is like this, but this is the truth. So right now, if you looked at yourself, how you're applying your time to your business or to ideas or projects or whatever it is, you're already taking actions that are actually driving 80% of the results. You maybe didn't look at it this way, but certainly that is scientifically almost precisely the case. So you are already using this principle a little bit. You just have to focus your mind on applying most of your time to the 20% that's resulting in the 80. So here's some signs that the time is being misapplied, or you're not using leverage as much as you should, right? And um, really, the biggest one is that if the hours that you're putting in don't equal progress, or the business depends on you entirely to fulfill all these different things, um, and the last point there of work resetting from zero, meaning that if you'd imagine a person who's, let's say, a salesperson, and every single year they have to rebuild their sales list from scratch, and they have to, because they're not going to get any repeat sales, or they can't call anybody from their list that will sell, that will buy from them. Your work is resetting from zero. So you're basically, it's very difficult to grow because you're not setting up yourself for the upcoming year, right? Or the upcoming period of time. So, and again, I'm going back to the man who wasn't sharpening the axe, right? Um, that's pretty much, if you can put yourself in that person's shoes, that means that you're sort of, not using as much leverage as you can. Okay, so of course, everybody has any one of these opportunities at a given time. I know for me, in any one of our businesses, we have a bunch of different opportunities in each one, and we have to select which thing we can use, and also within each category that we've went through, which we can use, right? Um, so the question is, how do you do that? So I'm just going to tell everybody what I've done. Um, I don't mean to insinuate that anybody is not doing this or anything like that. I just know that for me, the easiest thing for me to do was always look at all the activities that I've had and said, okay, um, I have all of my here's my day, here's all my opportunities. How am I organizing my day right now? And how much of this stuff is actually contributing towards the opportunities that I have related to my goals that I set or whatever the business parameters are that we had, right? And when you realize, like, I had a friend who would speak to his mom, like, or his dad, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a day, and using up about an hour or two. So, like, I think it's great to speak to your parents, and you can speak to them every day, of course. But at a certain point, it's like you have to allot time for family during the day, or for friends, or any of these hobbies that you have, or whatever it is. And then, as another category, all the administrative stuff. Um, you know, that you're doing maybe because you think it's part of, operating a business. All these things go into a bucket, right? That are not actually contributing to the main outcomes. And then when you look at your results and you're looking at, okay, if my goal was to grow my business to a million or two, right? What are the actual actions that I'm taking to that are actually contributing to sales today, right? Or if I'm building a skill, I want to be able to, become better at sales or become better at programming, or whatever it is. How much time I'm actually putting towards that goal. And you'll see that you're probably spending, you know, 20% of your time pretty much. That's how it works. And so once you recognize that, you start to commit to spending more of your time completely on that one thing that you're doing, right? The one or two things. And then you let everything else go. And what will happen is over time, so to give you, your business will transform. Like to give you an example, we have at any given time 10 different advertising channels that we can use for different businesses. And everybody has all these ideas about how to advertise. And you know, what we do is we'll pick. So last year we picked one. I didn't know if it would be right, and neither did anybody else in the company. But we picked one because the numbers showed that it was returning well, and we invested in that one. And then from there, the whole business transformed to the point that it didn't matter that we didn't invest in the other ones because the results came from that one, and now all of a sudden, all of the sales that came in sort of made the rest of that discussion moot, really. So it's about choosing and then committing to investing in that one area. So I'm trying to get specific because I'm not really sure to what extent everybody is in their lives in business or whatever it is. So um, this is just what I found in our experience looking at and meeting hundreds of business owners a year. Um, so when you're starting out in business, usually you're trying to sell something to someone, and you have a lot of extra time potentially to invest in. Usually people are younger, maybe they don't have families yet, or maybe they're younger families generally speaking, so they have a little bit more time. So you can invest in yourself to build knowledge. One of the main things, again, I touched on it earlier, is if you have time to study subjects that are outside of what your profession is or what your business does, it's very useful. For example, um, I I did this myself. Like I took content marketing courses and physically did all of the content ads and managed Google accounts just to understand exactly what that what that skill was. And then you can apply that to your business afterwards. And you only have to learn it once. So once you learn it once, you can, not only will you save money on ad agencies later, but you'll also, you don't, you, again, you spent that whatever 1 to 5 or maybe 10 hours, and now you can leverage that time you spent to to grow your business. And so this is the type of thing that, and again, with media content being so low cost, this is the type of thing that really, when you're starting out, helps grow your business really quickly. If you have some traction, maybe you're going from zero, you're not at zero, you're at 500,000 or 200,000, or you're in that zero to kind of, actually it's really 0 to 5 million, to be honest with you, revenue. Um, you'll start to develop some momentum with sales. And now you're going to be thinking, okay, there's a lot more people that want my time to either service them or make sure that the thing went okay or the whatever product they bought went okay. So you start to you start to subcontract out a bunch of services. Use You're using different technology or other companies to grow, right? And all of these examples are examples that we've used where it lets you focus on that same one thing that is growing your business and dumps everything off to other people, right? And again, I'm pointing out when capital is probably the best, which is when the product market fit exists, when you have a good gross profit margin, when really all you need is more people, more sales, um, then you can apply capital to the business and probably grow before the next level of costs and size. Okay, so that's sort of the rundown. Um, to recap. What we wanted to cover was what leverage is. So, like we discussed, leverage is more output for less input per time. How to recognize if you're not using it. If you're not using it, you're the man who didn't sharpen his axe. And how to choose the right lever. It's finding the action that makes up the results and then apply your time and effort to it, leaving behind these other actions for the time being. And I should add that you can't obviously not pay your bills or not send invoices, but it's what that means more is a commitment to using the first part of your day to that one action, and then it will grow your business. I know from my own experience. So that's it. Exactly, almost 30 minutes. I can't believe it. Thank you very much. And I guess if there's any questions, Riva, we can do them now.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking of your time. Perfect. I never saw somebody that was so good at keeping to the time. Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us. I can definitely say for myself, I learned something new and I definitely found the man with the axe a very good parable to keep in mind. So the
Great.
floor is open. You're welcome to post on the chat and I can read it out, or you can feel free to unmute yourself.
Your bank accounts that you not manage. I assume that both you and your husband sign.
No
Please
question.
repeat the question. No, didn't hear any.
You're going to need some.
I was just opening the floor for questions. There is no specific question for me. I'm telling you that your questions are available. It's the time now. All right, so
Thank you. Yeah, it was great presentation. How we can reach out to you in future? Do you have your cards or your contact
Yes,
information to post?
yes. What I'll do is I'll actually give it to Riva if you don't mind, and then you guys can feel free to ask me any questions. Um, you know, it's my direct email, so you can feel free. It's no issue. And also, I should have mentioned this before that my brother Jacob, who made a presentation earlier, and I are actually coming out with a book in the summer um, about it's actually about how to buy and grow businesses. And this presentation is makes up one of the chapters. So
Interesting. Thank you. How about website? Do you have a website to check your
yeah, yeah.
previous
Our,
work?
our Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn website. We have a company website. So what I'll do is I'll send it to Riva and then I'll have her circulate it to everybody so that way you guys have it.
Okay, correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, we're going to share the PowerPoint and recording after as well.
Great.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. It's your last chance to pop in any questions. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable, you could pop it in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Okay, no questions, I guess.
Okay. It was great to see everybody.
You know,
Thank you very much for your time.
thank you, everybody, for joining us.